Welcome to the Brokers Open Podcast.
This week on Brokers Open Podcast, CrossFit, mentoring, schedule, being proactive, appointment setting, and improving those appointment team, and how to conquer real estate in general with Lorna Short.
Episode 2.
That's right.
Let's rock this thing. Friday morning. I'm feeling jacked up. We have an extremely awesome guest today. But before we get to that guest, we got to give a little quick shout out to Palm Media.
Absolutely. You know we do.
There are producers. There are men behind the scenes. And
the
then
directors, the brains. I think you'd have to call them the brains behind the scenes.
the whole thing. So I know we had kind of a little success story with Palm Media other than us just chatting them up. So what happened this week?
Yeah, so this week we had one of the closings with a brand new agent. She's 2.5 months in the business, and she engaged those guys. Did some of the Facebook magic that we did, awesome. and they were able to pull a closing. She's walking by and she holds up the folder and points at the folder while I'm sitting in there in a coaching session with somebody and waves. I give her the thumbs up. I come out and I talk to her for just a second and she said, she mentioned where it came from and everything, and I was like, that's Palm Media, man, doing their thing.
What a huge thing for new agents to be able to experience, though, because for new agents who don't have a sphere of influence or aren't really, they haven't really cut their teeth, Palm Media almost takes that little bit of and that's awesome. So it got them off the ground. That's huge.
It did.
Palm Media, you the bomb.
That's right. And they're always there to help, So I was talking to Ben this morning, and he knew what was going on with that closing, and so he's staying engaged with not just helping generate the business, but making sure it goes the way it's supposed to go. Man, you just can't beat that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Full service.
Yep.
So without further ado,
Absolutely.
Who do we have here to my right?
So speaking this morning, I'm from Georgia, so this has got to start with a story, right? So first thing this morning, I'm getting up and I've got my morning ritual and I'm going and everything, and I text Lorna and I said, "Hey Lorna, you excited about today?" And she says, "Absolutely, I'm excited about today." So I get done with my walk and everything, feeling pretty good about myself.
I know.
And I get a picture from that's
la
right.
la.
Feeling good about myself, feeling like a champion. Then I get this picture from Lorna, and Lorna, we're going to have to talk about the CrossFit Challenge a little bit, okay? And Justin too. I know you guys are very, very engaged in that. And so I get this picture back that she completed her 12 million jumping death squats and all the other things that she did. And she said, "Absolutely, just finished up my challenge. Can't wait to see you guys this morning." So how'd your morning go this morning?
It was good.
Yeah.
A little nerve-wracking. So Justin participates in this as well, as you know. So it's the CrossFit Open time of year. It's an annual event.
Right.
It's a 5-week session. Starts Friday mornings.
Right.
So I like to get it done. You know
Right.
me, I'm a morning person,
Absolutely.
so it's done.
Right.
So every Friday morning for 5 weeks, there's a prescribed workout
Oh wow.
that everybody in the Open does.
It's brutal.
It's brutal.
It's absolutely
This thing
brutal.
is worldwide. Like there's hundreds of thousands in my competition
That's
group.
awesome.
So
Your
I'm-
daughter Taylor does it too, right?
Oh yeah, she does it
She's
at
a beast, right?
pretty impressive level. Yeah, she's in Manhattan at Fifth Avenue
Oh, nice.
at her gym. So you can imagine what they're like.
That's a pretty
you
nice
know.
gym, I bet. I bet
Yeah.
the dues are probably double what ours are.
Oh,
Oh
easily.
yeah, $375.
Wow.
For a gym membership, just
Right.
FYI.
Yeah.
That's right.
But
That's
in
real.
Manhattan.
That's real money.
Not only is Lorna Short a badass CrossFitter, ex-triathlete, but the quick intro to Lorna is that she is a real estate rock star. In terms of real estate, the industry as a whole is so vast. And Lorna, I feel like, has been a part of every damn bit of it.
Yeah, she has.
She's like, again, what we talked about last week with like that natural athlete thing.
Yep.
She is the natural athlete
I
of
agree.
not only athletics,
Right.
But-
also selling.
yeah. So if you're ever on the other side of Lorna being, getting a listing presentation, you
Look
might
out.
just want to concede.
Look out.
Yeah.
Just say uncle.
She's a fierce competitor, and I'm just pumped to have her here because she is exactly what we're looking for in this podcast in terms of talking to the audience and showing them the vast array of different things that you can do with your real estate career. So we're excited to talk with you about that today.
Thank you very much. Sounds a little too good to be true, but
No, it's not. And
we
we
plug
can
along
prove it.
day after day, right?
And we can prove it. So tell us how you got started in real estate in Long Island.
Long Island.
Yeah,
Long Island.
Long Island. Little bit by default. It was not really a plan or a dream, as some people have a love for real estate. We bump into those people and try to recruit them all the time, right? I was in corporate banking, married Jim Short.
Right.
We were double income, no kids, had some fun years there. Blessed with 2 children, I decided to step out of corporate America. At the
Right.
time, my office was in Manhattan. I was commuting into the city a lot. It was part of my territory, Long Island, in the 5 boroughs of New York.
Right.
I was a asset-based lender.
Shoo.
No pressure there.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a great career. Banking was awesome. Learned a lot. Probably helped me a lot in the real estate business.
Yeah, they
So
let
long-
you in that high stakes type
Definitely, yeah.
situations.
Well,
yeah.
the mindset of like, you're doing these gigantic $1 million leverage finance deals, when I thought about real estate, my first thought was I could certainly sell a house.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
Yeah.
well, that didn't pan out quite as quickly as I expected. But anyways, long story short, I stepped out of real estate to be with the children. The plan was for several years.
Right.
The defense industry was changing at that time.
Yeah.
My husband was a senior executive in the defense industry, and we made some choices which led me back into the business world. And I didn't want to go back to Manhattan. The bank said I could come back, but I just didn't want to go back there, having been home with the kids for some time now.
Right.
So out of the blue, what could I do to be local to my community, not have an income cap, which was
Right.
a problem at the bank.
Right.
I always hit
Absolutely.
the plan.
Right.
And Jim had a background in real estate investing, and he said, "What about real estate?" So I'm like, "Sure, sounds good to me."
That's sweet.
I don't know,
Yeah.
sounds good.
Not your typical path.
No. Again, that's 2 weeks in a row, right?
Yep.
Not the typical path.
So
We
tell
love
us a
it.
little about that, about your business there, and what you formulated up there so quickly out of nowhere with no real estate background.
All right, I got in the business, and I'll admit, for the first 2 or 3 months, I was falling right in my face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was probably overly confident, not realizing the detail it took to get this going and the commitment that it took to, as I look back, I'm going to say maybe a schedule.
Right.
It was what really helped me on a
Absolutely.
day-to-day basis, getting very rigid about my activities every day. Once I mastered my morning schedule and got over crying to do the tough stuff,
Thank you for saying that.
Because this week we felt like crying out.
because there was a lot of crying there in the beginning. Not because things were going wrong. It was just I was really out of my box, like reaching out to people,
Right.
like letting them know that I'm in the business. In banking, a lot of that I did that, but it wasn't the same. This was very personal. People were much more personal.
Yeah.
They didn't have their corporate hat on when you reached out to them. They
Right.
would hang up on you and
Yep.
things,
Right.
and that was hard. at
So it was
first.
super vulnerable for you to step out into
Absolutely.
the, right.
Yeah, that was rough.
Yeah.
That was
Well,
rough.
so I've heard this story before, so I'm gonna egg you on a certain piece of this because it's important. Okay, so you were struggling and you were getting help, but it wasn't exactly the help you needed, and so you reached out to somebody
I
and you
did.
said, "What do I need to do? What in the heck can I do here to make things better?" Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I was advised, I called the number one, after several weeks of falling on my face, and I was paying a babysitter because the hubby was making a full-time job out of finding potentially something.
Right.
So we got a babysitter, driving home on a Friday night one night, crying in the car again.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I got to figure this out, right? I called the number one agent at Prudential Long Island Realty at the time. And he said to me, "Get a mentor." And I'm like, "Great, will you be my mentor?" And he laughed at me. No, not me.
No, I meant
Wait
you
a
go find
minute.
somebody else.
That's right. Nice
So
call
he
on Dirty
advised, he
Friday.
gave me some advice,
Yeah.
who to reach out to, which I did. And in very short order, made a $1,000 a month commitment with a 12-month minimum. And I was so afraid at that point. I
Right.
just did everything they said. Crying or not, man, it didn't matter. I was doing my work, talking to people from a moldy basement. Every time it would rain, your feet were wet in the puddle down in the basement of this
Right.
building, and I was just making calls down there and sneezing away.
See, the
Put him on
human
mute,
spirit.
sneeze.
Indomitable. Man. You
That's
can't stop
incredible,
it.
though. Like
Yeah.
when somebody's back's against the wall with the attitude that Lorna has, I mean, there is only one path to go, and that's fascinating. There's either 90% of people, maybe 95% of people, quit, give up, and say,
Right. It's not for me.
"This isn't it."
Yeah.
Lorna says, "Try me."
Right.
Right. Well, I probably got close to that, Justin, a couple times, and then I get a tidbit. I get an appointment.
Right.
I get some, and
Glimmer of
I
hope.
was afraid to call the obvious people, like a for sale by owner or an expired listing. I had heard some rumors they could be a little resistant.
Right.
So I literally just went into the county tax records on Long Island, Suffolk County, and I was just calling up and down streets. And I just did that
Wow.
endlessly. That's how I got started. And then once I got a couple tidbits and got a listing or two under my belt, all right, I'm like, this is silly. Why am I spending all this time calling people who may or may not have a real estate need? You know, this group over here is a lot more obvious. Let's see what we can do over here. And then I started learning what to say and practicing, and my coach helped me with that, with tonality and the words to use, and boosted my confidence, and that's what probably really got it going.
Not just what to say, but how to say it. That does
Yeah,
make all the difference.
tonality. Tonality was a big one.
So I remember one of the first times that you and I talked. You told me a story about Taylor and Adam and them knowing the
kids,
scripts. Yeah, them knowing the
Oh, yeah.
scripts as well as you, because she would practice the scripts all the time when she wasn't on her calls and everything. She'd practice and she's
In
around
the
the
car.
kids.
In the car.
And so the kids are going along with the script. in the
So
car.
old cassette tapes,
Yeah.
right? So the kids would
What's
be in
that?
the
Cassette?
kids
What?
little cassette tapes. Yeah. For those of you who don't know what that is, it was a little round
We'll put,
thing,
we'll put a link down below to what those are.
like before CDs,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
After 8 tracks, if I
Right.
recall, right? I know. Yeah, I'm getting old. So I would put the kids in the car seat. They'd be like 3 and 5 years old, kind of thing. We'd pop the cassette in, and we'd all start together.
Oh, that's so
Hi.
awesome.
Isn't it that's
This is
excellent,
blank
man.
with blank.
That's excellent.
That's how the tape went. Hi, this is blank with blank, and I'm calling about. I see your home's come off the market.
My guess is that they're not getting into real estate then.
No.
The
Ah,
kids.
heck no.
Yeah, they're like,
No.
hell.
Oh, they're both killing it in what they're doing, though. They're
so
both
funny.
killing. I don't know if she wants to get into that, but she's got 2 incredible kids that are absolutely killing it.
So, obviously, you got off the ground. Would you say that for the agents out there, new, experienced, middle of the road, whatever their life cycle is, how much did that mentor propel your career, and would you recommend it outward?
If you have a need to have consistent cash flow, there's no other way that I've figured out in this business than to have a consistent day. And let's call that Monday through Friday, right? The weekends, you could be reactive, but you have to be proactive. That's what I learned early on. You have to be proactive during the week.
Right.
And the only way I honestly was able to do that was to have accountability. Without the accountability
Right.
I intended to,
Right.
I thought I would. I'd get up in the morning and say, today's the day I'm going to do this. And then I'd check emails and make some phone calls. And then it was 11 a.m. and then I'm hungry and I'm off to lunch or chit-chatting in the office or,
Right.
I just major distractions.
Distracted, yeah.
So that's
Major
an important point, though. So
Absolutely.
I mean,
Critical.
so many people get into real estate for a quote-unquote flexible schedule, and quite the opposite is what makes people successful.
Absolutely.
But on
Being-
that note, Justin, here's what they taught me. If you're consistent in the morning, literally, you'll have appointments in the afternoon, but it won't be every day.
Right.
I got to the point on Long Island in 2003, 4, 5 and of course the market was amazing,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And but I could say if I wanted to go back to that, I could do that. You could be playing in the afternoon. You're a cycler. I
Yeah.
did a lot of cycling. I'd be on my bike in the afternoon,
How
killing
cool is
50
that?
miles,
Yeah.
because I could.
Because she
Because
did what
I
she
knew.
was supposed to. She paid it forward.
Because I knew
Yeah.
the business was totally under control. And
Yep.
I could count the number of people I talked to and predict my cash flow. If I wanted to take it down a notch because I got vacations coming up, I could. College was coming up for the kids, we beefed it up. So if you do it right, it's 100% controllable.
Life by design.
Right.
So it sounds to me like she had her life, that with her family and with her passions and everything else, but it was by design. This is not by accident, people.
And it wasn't all perfect, guys.
Yeah.
There's ups and downs and tough years. Let's face it, 2006 through 2012, that was rough stuff, man. And everybody was dancing,
Oh,
including
absolutely.
us. Yeah.
The road to success does not look like this.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to keep redefining success. Some days it's just getting up and being able to make it through.
What is success today? Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So she hit on just like Ben was last week, man, hitting on so many important things. It's just got me racing here. So you talked about your metrics. I'm an analytical person, right? That's my personality. I think everybody knows
No.
that. Right?
Stories and
What an
analytical.
honest-
Yeah,
yeah.
we got that.
Yeah. So so she talked about knowing her numbers. So you said if I do this many calls and I make this many connections and I have this many of these appointments, then my cash flow is going to be this.
Absolutely.
And you also said that that doing something on purpose allowed you to control your business a certain way versus you said if somebody wants to make a business of this
By
instead
accident.
of that's right,
Yeah.
on purpose versus by accident. So both of those are absolutely critical things. So tell me about the numbers that you measure, because I know I get your business plan, but there's other there might be somebody else listening to this, right?
Yeah.
And so let's see tell me a little bit about the numbers that you look at on a regular basis. that
Super
help you
simple,
to
yeah.
design
Very,
what-
very simple. The first number I look at is, I was taught the word contacts.
Okay.
In today's environment, we're using the word interviews.
Right.
So really, it's the number of people that I talk to on a daily basis. So
Okay.
we start there. From there, you track how many appointments you're getting. So
Right.
here's what I was taught. The number of people that I would reach out to and talk to on a daily basis would, in generally equal the number of deals I did annually.
Okay.
So if I talk to 20 people a day, I could depend on pretty much, give or take, 20 deals a year.
Yep.
And that statistic played out
And it-
year after year.
Absolutely.
And then once I added, for example, people waving their hand that need to sell, for sale by owners, expired listings, withdrawn listings, my ratios improved because the number of appointments I got, that ratio from contacts or interviews to appointments, listing appointments made, that ratio improved dramatically because I wasn't just making calls to people that really didn't have a need.
It's huge.
So the ratio started with contacts.
By design.
This hits home so
Yeah,
hard.
By design.
So the ratio started with contacts. And so in the beginning, don't be discouraged if you decide to do some of this, because you could go a week or two and not get an appointment.
Yeah.
But let me tell you the good news there. The good news there is that if that's happening to you, we can fix it. You can fix that. You just have to have enough self-confidence to go get help and say, okay, I'm doing the deed.
That's right.
I'm putting in the time, but nobody's reacting. I'm not getting appointments. So you fix that. You learn what to say and how to say it.
And you're one step closer to that yes.
That's right.
'Cause you're-
Every no gets you closer to a yes.
Absolutely.
Right?
And that's just the reality. You just have to keep going. You have to keep connecting with people.
Yep. And
But
then
what's unique about that is, sorry to interrupt, but
not at all.
I think that people stop just short of their
Yeah.
successes.
Yes.
Don't quit before you win.
It's crazy.
They kept telling me, don't quit before you win.
Oh yeah.
Don't quit before you win. Right? It's right there. It's got to be right there. You're doing the work.
Right. Let me explain something. Lorna is obviously a rock star, but she's not some superhero that has some hidden talent.
Some days I'm not sure. We might have to let's go
Most
through what
days.
she's doing with CrossFit
Most
first,
days,
and then
yeah.
we'll see about the superhero thing.
But it's so applicable to everybody. I'm telling you right now, if Lorna can do this and set that schedule and make that happen, anybody can. But your mind's
You
got
have
to
to
be
decide.
there.
You have to decide to
You-
do it.
you have to
be on
want
purpose.
it.
Yeah.
In order to do that first step, to discipline yourself to sit down and get to work, that's where most agents fail right there.
Right.
And we can coach them, we can encourage them, we can call them every morning. Have you started? Are you done? And it's still it's in here. You gotta want
Yeah.
it. You have to want it really badly.
Pop outside that comfort zone. People
Yeah,
don't like
definitely.
getting outside of their comfort zone.
Yeah, definitely
Oh, I
gotta
just
want it.
unplugged that. I unplugged the audio for a second.
Yeah,
That was
definitely.
Good.
You definitely want it. So then from there, not to get too wordy, but this follows through. This is where it's really cool, and where a lot of agents miss the boat or aren't willing to ask for help. Once you discipline yourself to sit down and make the contacts, you can increase your skills so you're getting more appointments. Then you start going on the appointments.
And get better. Yeah.
And in the beginning, you'll find you're going on 4, 6 listing appointments, and maybe you're listing 1 or 2. Your ratios are off. You should be listing at least 50%.
Okay.
Start getting up to 70, 80%.
Yeah.
And that's really just the skill of you pre-qualifying that listing, maybe sending a pre-listing package, setting it up for success, and then, of course, a presentation that follows through with the whole system that you started. So it all needs to be consistent. The words you're using in the pre-qualifying and the prospecting flow
It's interesting.
into
So it's interesting. So
presentation.
last week we talked to Ben, right? And so one of the things that he hit on was who he puts out there on social media has to be the person that ends up in the appointment with the person. It's exactly what you're saying.
Right.
Being consistent with your script of what you said was going to happen along the
Right.
way
Exactly.
has to be what shows up and has to be what's delivered, or you're not going to get the referral from them later. So two great agents
Yeah.
saying something very similar. There
But
must be
in
something to
different,
that.
in different
Yeah.
That's right. different arenas.
applications, but
That's
it's
right.
the same concept.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is.
So
yeah.
what did your year-over-year volume start like, and where did you get to when you eventually sold off your book of business to come to Florida? What did that?
2005 was the biggest year.
Okay.
Jim and I were, by the way, Jim joined me in the business.
Shout out to
what-
Jim,
Yep.
rock star.
Thank you, dear.
Yes.
Couldn't do it without you, and he's still cranking. He says he's behind. He says he's semi-retired now. He's still behind the scenes
He's
in a big
behind
way.
the
Yeah,
scene.
in
I
a
can't
big
see
way.
him being semi-retired.
Any minute now, you're going to hear my cell phone ding, and it's going to be copies of FSBOs and expireds that I'm supposed to call this morning. Yeah.
That's awesome. Good team.
It keeps you on track.
And because
man.
he knows I'm here, I'll have to do it between 1 and 3, and he'll be holding me accountable. Yeah, thanks, honey.
So,
So
05
2005 was the biggest and baddest year, probably for most active agents, as you
Yeah.
can imagine. We had a team of 4 of us, buyer agent, full-time assistant. We were rocking 100 deals. Average deal size was 700-800, but we were on Long Island in a pretty
Yeah.
waterfronty, yacht clubby area.
All right, so-
It was fun.
Can we divert for just a second here? You talked about team structure, okay? Mm-hmm. And so let's hit on team structure, but I also want to get back to the balance because it's eaten at me from the beginning of the conversation. I don't think we've done it justice with how she keeps a balance between her personal life and all the things she's accomplished with that. So we got to get back to that after this. But so tell me a little bit about your team. So it started off with just you, and then the next thing you know, we just said we're at 100 million.
It started off with me
So-
prospecting in a basement, and then once I started getting some listings, I just finally said to Jim, I need your help.
Yeah.
And when I'm the driver personality. I'm the go, go, go. I'll get myself in trouble by not slowing down and crossing T's and dotting I's. Typical driver.
Yeah.
Right? I'll give you a quick funny example. Jim and I would drive past a FSBO. I would scream, stop, and I'd jump out of the car and go knock on the door.
That's so awesome.
That's awesome.
Jim and I drive by a FSBO.
That's so awesome.
He'd
You know how
lock the
many
door
agents
on
want
me.
you in their car?
He'd lock the door on me and write down the address and so forth and go home and investigate. So I get to the door and they're pulling out a shotgun. I'm making a big mistake, right? Or it's some sort of deal you don't want, a foreclosure or something like that, right?
Right.
So I'll make mistakes where Jim will be very careful. So in the end, it turned out we're a really great team.
That's so cool.
So anyways, he joined me in the business.
Right.
And then our coach, the company.
Hey, spoiler alert, this is extremely important what she's about to say.
The
on this part
coach
of it.
advised me that once you get to about 36 transactions, you can't handle it all yourself anymore. And my first thought was 3 deals. How could I not handle, the administrative side of 3 transactions? That just can't be. But it
Right.
was. It would eat you alive.
Absolutely.
It took away my afternoons on the bike.
Yeah.
It was annoying.
Right.
Right? No more playing in the afternoons
That's
on the
right.
days I didn't have appointments.
Right.
Yep.
So once I handed that over, contract administration, and then the next step is we brought in a buyer agent.
Right.
So because I couldn't run the buyers we were attracting fast enough, so I became sort of like the listing side. My job was to prospect and keep the visual. My coach taught me it was like a paper towel tube. My job was to shove deals in the front of the pipeline.
Right.
Listings taken, and that would throw off buyers for the buyer agent.
Absolutely.
And then, the income, never look at the income. I was
That's
taught
right.
never look at the money. The
Absolutely,
money
it's a
pops out the
byproduct.
back.
Yeah.
The money pops out the back. The job is to always keep shoving deals into the pipeline. And that's kind of been the mentality that
And so
I've had.
Jim got to the role of where he was doing the stuff that your coach said at one point. You guys were talking at home and everywhere that you went, you were talking about
That
both
was a big
sides
transition.
of the deal. Yeah. And so
Yeah.
your coach kind of walked you through that. Can you
Well, the
talk about
business
that?
beefed up. We're probably, a year or so into the business, and now we're doing, 30-some deals, getting it going nicely. We had way too much overlap. But what would happen initially is that we would go on listing presentations together, which was ridiculously disastrous because of
Yeah.
our different
Right.
personality styles.
Right.
So we stopped all that, and I took that role. Jim took much more of a business planner, the accountant, the research guy,
Yeah.
finding all who I call every morning. He had him on my desk by the time I was back from the gym every day.
Right.
And then he would also handle inspections. He would go on the inspections because he's an engineer.
That's so important, though.
It is.
fabulous
And
at that.
appraisals.
And he would,
Yeah.
and appraisals, and he still does. He has one today at 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I figured.
Yeah.
That's why I laughed when you said semi-retired.
Right.
Well, especially in
dear.
real estate, people tend to focus more on their weaknesses than their strengths.
Right.
And I really want to point what she just said out was, she sat down with her partner in crime, her husband, and said, "Listen, let's work on our core competencies. What are we good at?
That's right.
And let's divide and conquer."
Right, and quit overlapping on things that we're trying to accommodate for stuff that doesn't need to be accommodated
That's
for.
right.
When you
And-
put your ego aside,
Right, that's right.
you can drive together
Yeah, I
forward.
could say, I'm really not good at that,
Right.
and I don't enjoy it. But sometimes in the business, you feel like you should be the jack of all trades.
Yeah.
But you're right. The business went to another level when I admitted I could give up those inspections. I don't need to be there and hold that buyer's hand,
It's
even
the
if it's
E-myth.
my buyer.
It's
It's
huge.
the E-myth. It's exactly what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's awesome.
And another one, just quick thing on this note, you were probably referencing. This could be an important point for some people that are husband-wife teams or partners. We thought it was a good thing that we would tell our sellers that they could call either of us if they had a need. We never said any time of day. I was never the 24/7 realtor. But during business hours, reasonable business hours, they could always call, if they couldn't catch me, they could call Jim or vice versa. Well, what happened there is we found our personal time, the dinner table, home with the children. All we were doing was saying, hey,
Catch up.
And it wasn't just like, the appraiser called and the appointment is tomorrow. It was like, well, I talked to seller Sue, and here's what she said, but here's what I think she meant. And all this subtle stuff and hours of sharing that was just, we finally went to our coach and she put in a rule. Coach said, new rule. There'll be no conversation about business at the dinner table, and there'll be no conversation about business in the bedroom.
Yep.
It'll ruin your marriage.
Right.
Yep.
Ruin your family, ruin your marriage. And that was huge. for
Game
us.
changer.
Game changer.
Good for
Absolute
you.
game changer.
That you're able to implement that, though, because
Oh,
a lot
that's
of people
tough.
can have it
Oh,
and
that's
then
tough.
just have goes right out the other side.
Oh, yeah.
Jim was good. Jim was good at keeping us
Jim's
On
high,
track.
high
accountable.
analytical.
Right.
High
Yeah,
analytical.
yeah.
Right.
He was really good about keeping us accountable to that kind of stuff, especially in the bedroom.
All right.
Thanks, dear.
Check. Shout out to Jim right there, baby.
Keeping a dream
Hey, by the
alive.
way, today's his birthday. Happy birthday, babe.
Oh, happy birthday.
Happy
We'd
birthday,
sing,
Jim.
but that would almost be like an insult. That's how bad my singing
Kids,
is.
you might want to cut out like 30 seconds before that clip.
That's right.
So all right. So you built the business up. Everything's swimming.
Right.
For the most part.
What happens next? What's
The market crashed.
dum dum dum?
All right, Mr. Analytical. Jim would do this report
Yeah, this-
every single month, and he would show the absorption rate. And he would do this report, how many listings coming on, how many listings sold, and we have 2.6 months in this price point, and we've got 3.6 months in this price point, and he tracked that.
He saw it
And
coming.
the inventory was growing, and the inventory was growing, and the inventory was growing. and-
Saturation was
and,
dropping.
And the absorption rate was dropping like a rock.
Yeah.
And to make a long story short, he kept saying to me, even though it was robust as could
Right.
be and price had not budged, we kept going to our manager, whose name will go unmentioned, and I think she was afraid to share this with the rest of the agents because, long story short, we kept saying, this is not sustainable.
Something's gotta
This thing's
give."
going to
Yeah.
hit. We're going to tilt over the edge here.
There was a lot of bubble talk
Yeah.
for a long time before
There
all that
was.
happened. There was a lot
And
of
then it
bubble
was
talk.
November 2015. And our assistant, whose name was Kathy, had this notebook, and she would log in the showings. There was no such thing as showing time back then.
Right.
She would log in the showings, and she said to me on a Friday afternoon as I was running out the door with 2 big paychecks in hand, we had 2 big closings that day, and I was meeting Jim for dinner,
Yeah.
going out, celebrating. And she said to me, hey, Lauren, just want to tell you real quick, before you take off tonight, we had like almost no showings on 33 listings that
Wow.
week.
Oh my God.
Wow.
I'm like, what? I couldn't believe the words.
Time to fold that check up and put it
I
in a
went-
savings account versus.
I went to meet Jim for dinner, and I said, it's here. It's here. And it was. It was the beginning of the end.
What was that date? November.
November
2005.
2015.
2005.
2000, sorry, of
Yeah.
course, 2005. It was
Wow.
November, it was like the second week of November 2005.
And so she saw the writing on the wall. I mean,
Yeah.
2 years before it actually happened.
Oh yeah. Yeah, well, she was in a hot market, but 2007 was the end of it.
Complete fallout.
Yeah, the banks
that's
crashed
That's
in
when everybody
08.
admitted that it was a problem.
Right.
Up until then, there'd been a problem in
But
different pockets.
when
for
you're a
long time.
listing agent, for
Yeah.
any listing agent who has several listings,
Hey, 33
you have
listings, by
got
the
your
way.
finger on the pulse of the market. It's all about buyer activity.
Yep.
If prices are falling, things slow down.
Right.
So then we started reducing. I remember I called my coach. She's like, we have to tell every seller. I spent the next 2 weeks calling everybody. Some of them believed me.
And
Some of them adjusted.
Yeah.
Some of them wouldn't believe me.
Right.
And so what
That's the
happened
hard
with Jim and
part.
I?
Well, some of them couldn't believe you.
Yeah.
That's right. Right. Yeah, because they bought
That's a
so
big part.
high
That's
2
right.
years ago,
Yeah.
they couldn't come down.
That's right.
The news
That's right.
isn't
There's no
saying
way.
it.
That was a
That's why
whole
it's
nother
Lorna
story.
saying it.
That's right.
Yeah,
What does she
yeah.
know?
Right.
That's right. Yeah, it was really,
And then they
it
were
was really, we still have that
Putting
issue.
their Snuggie on like a year later,
Yeah.
sucking
That's
their
right.
thumb, hoping
Yeah.
for the best.
Becoming a short sale.
Yeah.
So,
All right, so we got to get back to this.
yeah.
I can't skip over this anymore. It's killing me.
Every time I see Lorna,
So-
this is probably what we talk about, but go ahead.
Yeah, she's so she was on the women's national team for triathletes a couple of years ago, in her
3
her
years ago.
division 3. Yeah. and
Old
so
news.
yeah.
Old news, Matt.
And, all right, so whatever. So the on top of that, she's juggling $10 million or $12 million in business, and on top of that, she's still helping me around the office, making sure that agents are doing what they need to do. She's helping out teaching in BHU.
Yeah.
Now she's got the core class going on Wednesdays. She's got all of these things that she's juggling, and somehow she still keeps her energy level up and keeps a balance in all of this. Tell me about the exercise and how it fits in with what you're doing as a whole. Is it a release? Is it a relief for you to be able to go and exercise with what you do in real estate?
How do you answer that? Because you're an athlete too.
It's absolutely vital in my life. I mean, I am not the same person the day that I don't work out. If something happens and I can't work out or it's a rest day, I am not the same person.
My pajamas say, sorry for what I said before I worked out.
Yeah.
I love it.
No, it's
I love it.
it's so cool. I mean,
That's awesome.
what's great
Shouldn't
about
bother.
Lorna is not only does she work out every day, but I am huge on morning routine and when you get up specifically.
Oh, yeah.
And Lorna, every morning, hops into the CrossFit gym, gets her crap done, does the dirty when people are probably still sleeping, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then she is, I know, like, once you leave that CrossFit gym and then, you go back home, do your thing, go to work, you're pinging on all levels.
Oh, yeah.
Your mind
Your
is
energy
so
is
sharp.
Muscles, yeah.
So sharp.
Yep.
So
True.
talk to us about that game. What intrigues you about CrossFit? Why do you do what you do every day? Why is that part of your routine?
So start with morning ritual as a whole, though.
Yeah.
How about if we do that and then get into the
sure.
get into
Okay,
the gym?
so I learned when I was in banking, which is kind of out of school. Actually, I've been fortunate. Some people don't think this is the case, but I'm fortunate. I'm just naturally a morning person.
Yeah.
So morning always fires me up. Like it'll be 10 to 4, and like my eyes open. I'm like, okay, let's go.
Let's do this.
Ready to roll. Not every single day, but
Not me.
for the most part. I'm gonna start texting them at 4 o'clock. Just get them
My
out of
phone
bed.
will ping.
Ain't nobody
Anyways,
home.
right?
That's right.
So I figured out instead of just moping around the house and emptying the dishwasher, I mean, what an incredible time to like really get stuff done. So by the time back in the days when I was mega competitive in real estate and in corporate banking, by the time 8 o'clock hit, 8:30 hit, I could be ahead of the game when the rest of them are just
Right.
Yep.
doing their research and coming up to speed and trying to figure out who they're going to talk to that day.
That old
I could be
Army
done,
commercial.
man. I could be done.
That Army commercial.
Right.
These guys do more before 6 a.m. than most of the rest of people do all
exactly.
day.
So,
I love it.
Yeah.
so what I did is I put a mindset. I start off pretty much with mindset. I get up, have a cup of coffee, play with the dog for a second, lay on the floor, stretch a little bit, just which is more physical therapy, so my back doesn't blow up.
Yep.
And long story short, I do some mindset work just to get my head in the game.
Affirmations?
I have a silly app, don't laugh, but it's a minute of prayer. It's a minute of gratitude.
Get your mind right.
It's
How
5.
can anybody laugh at the success you're having? That's, I
It's-
mean, we just want to hear it and share it, and hopefully we can.
And it's a
it
5
in
minutes
place.
of ninja laying on my stomach
Yep.
and doing writing affirmations.
Good.
Close.
What's that app called?
It is called Morning Routine.
Gotcha.
Morning Routine. Yep. You can just set a little clock and key in whatever it is you want to do.
Right.
It gives you some suggestions if you want to key into those.
Cool.
So that gets me fired up. And, you probably have this experience as well, and I know you do a morning routine. We've talked about this.
Yeah.
When you do it often and maybe for several weeks or months in a row, the rest comes naturally.
Yeah.
You don't have to try anymore.
Talk about pull and push.
Yeah.
You-
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, Matt and I touched on this a while ago.
Yeah.
We were talking about
This is
this
good
with the
stuff.
new agents. In the beginning, when you're trying to learn a new skill or you're trying to do something, to discipline yourself to do something, it was very much a push.
Yeah.
I had to push myself to do it. Like I had to remind myself when to do it and push. And then after time, and I'm not quite sure if it's the mindset work or if it's just getting into the habit or the
habit, right.
combination.
Right. Or how you feel, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
It
You want
becomes
that
a
result.
pull. Now I am pulled to prospect. If I don't
You're the driving force.
if I don't talk to 10 people by 11 a.m., I physically am uncomfortable. I have agita.
Right.
Like I literally have missed
Push and pull.
something. It pulls me now.
That's
It pulls me
fantastic.
now. Yeah.
What people don't understand about their mind and their body is that they go, well, I'm not a morning person or I can't wake up that early. Let me tell you, once you do get set into that routine and start working out that early, all of a sudden you're exhausted by that time of night, and it's very easy in the morning to wake up at that point. All you're doing is restructuring your day for the better.
That's right.
Okay? You're in control of your day as opposed to not being in control of your day. So important.
I
Right.
completely agree. However, I'm naturally a night person, and if I don't do something to unwind at night, no matter what time I got up in the morning, I can be exhausted and fall asleep for 2 minutes on the couch and pop back up, and I'm up for another hour and a half. I have to do something else to detract from that to make me unplug because of what we do during the day. you know?
Yeah.
Right.
And so
Understand.
absolutely, I mean, I get up in the morning, do my stuff in the morning, get it going, all that kind of thing. Absolutely, I'm tired midway through the day and everything, but at night, for some reason, that chime still just kind of tings with me, like it does with you in the morning, like
Yeah,
you said, at 10 till
exactly.
4.
As long as you know who you are. So no excuses for anybody. You don't,
That's right.
You don't
That's what I was
have to
just
be a
about to
morning
say.
person to be
That's right.
successful.
Yeah.
I had several colleagues
Yep.
in the coaching program I was in that were night owls. But you have to figure out who you are and how to get a daily schedule in place for success to make it work for
Whatever
you. If you're
works
not
for
going to
you.
get up till 7:30,
Yeah.
and
What's
you're
your plan?
you could have a cup of coffee, take a shower, and jump into the game. That's fine.
Yeah.
As long as you're in the game, it doesn't matter. But you've got to discipline yourself.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
It's-
Now, how does that exercise program focus back in on your personal and your mental, or your personal and your business life? How does that
Yeah, that's
play a
what-
role, or are they completely separate?
That's what we need to know. That's what we got to get out here.
The balance. The
Mm-hmm.
balance.
It's your release time.
Okay, so I'm probably silly, but we do annual goals.
Right.
We do business goals and stuff. So the business goal that I give Matt is just a piece of, like, my total goals. So I should have brought it with me. It's in the car, but, and it's on the wall in my home office because it's a little personal to be in the office. But I have
Right.
goals in all areas, starting with like spirituality and health.
Yeah.
Spirituality and emotional, I guess. I start there because I think that's the foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Then I go into health because that's the most, if I don't have my health, I'm not going to be able to do anything else.
That's right.
And that's where the crazy workouts come in and nutrition and everything else we're trying to be good at on a daily basis.
Right.
And then I get into the business piece because the next piece is probably, well, no, that's not true. Excuse me. I do relationships, family, the foundation of the family, my relationships with the husband and
Good.
the kids and so forth. Then I get into the business, and that's the business piece that you see as
Right.
my manager,
Right.
right? My market president. And then lastly, I have some dream categories,
Yeah.
travel, leisure, sport, vacations, stuff like that, updating our home or buying real estate or whatever the kind of stuff we want to do.
So it's
So
all
I-
just a piece
I-
of the pie.
It is.
Everything's a little piece of the pie, yeah.
So if
And I
one
look
piece of
at
that
it every
pie
day.
isn't,
I read it every day. That's where I didn't do that for years, and reading it, looking at it, I actually have highlighted a number of things already. It's March 1st, and I've already got a bunch of them ticked off
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
year. Right?
That's a big deal.
sweet.
Having it written down.
I
Having it written
appreciate
down.
that big time.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
doubt.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
So one thing I will say for newer agents, and I was told this in the beginning, and it was actually a relief to hear this, they always talk about balance and
Right.
you do all this, but if you're a new agent and you really want to get this business going to the extent that you're doing, 2, 3 or more deals a month, you're going to be out of balance.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you have to ignore the rest of your life, especially your relationships. This business will eat your family life alive if you let it. You have to control your time,
Yeah.
not go running out the door in the middle of dinner when a buyer calls.
Yep.
Right.
Don't do that to your family.
Right.
But you'll be out of balance, and that's okay.
Right.
But if you do it well, it won't last too long. You'll be out of balance for a year, and you
Right.
should be able, by that time, you could get an
Paying
assistant
it
or
forward.
contract administrator, and then take that load off you,
Yeah.
for the most part. I
Yeah.
mean,
Got to pay that part a little bit forward. Just
you
to,
do.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
do. You're going to be a little out of balance.
But
And
that
that's okay.
that goes. I mean, she's another person who just dove in head first and then learned
That's
how to
right.
swim.
That's right.
I mean, I admire that so much. So many people calculate. When it comes time to implement, oh no, I don't
Yeah.
want to do that.
Those are the analyticals. Ready,
That's right.
set,
Ready,
ready,
set,
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 ready,
set.
set, ready,
Aim,
set.
aim, aim, aim.
It was easy for me that way. I'm a driver. It was just go. There was no ready or set. I just went. And I remember I used to go back to my manager back in Long Island, and I would say, oh, I think I'm in trouble again. You're going to get a call from Mr. Such and Such. I knocked on his door and made him really mad. And she was like, she used to laugh. She said, in order to make omelets, you have to crack some
Some
eggs.
eggs, yeah.
She used to say that to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Jim is back there screaming, aim, aim, aim,
Slow
aim, aim,
down,
aim.
slow down, Chuck.
Vital
He's
part.
still
balance.
sorry.
Speaking of balance.
He's still slowing me down.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, we can't thank you enough for doing this with us, because I think this sheds a lot of light on
Very helpful.
every agent out there. I don't care who it is who's listening to this. That's applicable to everybody.
I agree. It's good
Yeah.
stuff.
And keep in mind, there's good and there's bad, and you get on track and you get off track, and you have great weeks, months, years, right? But just if you implement, if you learn the basic skills, you take the time to get the skills down. That's the one exception I see in really top agents. They learn what to say, how to say it. They really learn the business as
Completely
opposed to
agree.
going out and winging it and just hoping upon hope.
Treat
And
it
they
like a
keep-
hobby. They go
Yeah.
out and treat it like a hobby
Right.
instead of treating it like a business or a profession.
Right,
Yep, I agree
exactly.
completely.
So once you get the skills down, and the cool thing is you could beef it up or beef it down when you want to. If you said to me, Lorna, next year it's imperative you do 60 transactions, would I want to beef it up to that point right now? I'd rather keep my average price that high and make the same amount of money, but I could do it because I know how. I just spend more time
So let's
banging the phones.
let's talk about that for just a second, okay?
Yeah.
And I know you'll be able to chime in on
Yeah,
this because you've got a ton of experience in this. So about a year and a half ago, you and I started talking about upping your average sales price, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the company puts on some luxury events for different stuff. I don't know if it was the Tesla event. Was it the Tesla event that
No,
this?
that was before that. It was
Okay.
it was at a house on Island Estates.
Okay, so we're
I
having
remember that, yeah.
So we're
Were you there
having
that day?
Yeah.
So
At
Justin,
Lenny's house, yeah.
Yeah.
Justin and Shauna were putting together you'll put together a luxury event. You're there. One of the builders reps are there and everything, and this is a very reputable builder. Builds a fantastic house, really well known.
Yep.
Had a couple of projects coming up and everything, and there's a bunch of our agents, our top agents that have a ton of experience in this venue, are all standing there. And Lorna walks over and says to this builder, was it the builder's rep that you said?
Builder's rep. It was
Said
the
to the builder's
sales
rep.
director.
Yeah, the sales director, and she says,
Well, you have these two big projects that you just shared with us. Who, may I ask, who's handling the marketing for you?
and he said, "Great question." So fast forward a little bit. So we end up with the account, and a huge help to absolutely to Lorna.
Yeah.
And so we end up with helping out with the account, and in over a 6 or 7 month period, we did probably more production than they had previous 12 months.
Yeah, well, they had sold one.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I take that back. They had sold 2 at one of the developments and 1 at the other. There were 17 at one. They had 1 sold there, and there's 61 in the other development, and 2 were sold there.
Right.
And
Yeah.
since we implemented, we've sold 7 more. Yeah.
That's what I'm
See,
talking
that's a good topic though, because that's a question I get a lot from not just my agents in my office, but agents around the country, is how do I get into that that upper price point? And that's something that we're probably going to have to take time for on another podcast,
I
because
agree.
that I think that subject doesn't do it justice if we just speak about it for a couple minutes, because I think that that's something that's really, really important to hit on.
Right, and I'll have to lean on you for that. You just listed one for 3.2 or something like that. Isn't that right? So I'll have to
Congratulations.
how are you going to be the guest?
No, wait,
and
he
the
just
host,
sold
right?
one for 3.2. Yeah. Listed and sold one.
Yeah.
So, well, like I said, thank you. I mean, let's do a couple quick takeaways, and this isn't even going to do it justice for everything that Lorna just provided for us. But big thing in your success was mentorship.
For sure. Accountability.
Accountability. So she went the coaching route. I'd encourage you out there to even look after a mentor in your office with your broker.
Yeah.
Whatever that mentor might be. I know personally, it fast forwarded my career probably 10 years when I had my mentor right away.
Yeah.
And I, always seek
Having the right
mentors
person.
at every point in your life.
Yep.
Schedule's everything to Lorna.
Yep.
It is, yeah.
Yep. I mean, she knocks everything out in the morning.
Morning schedule.
Knows what she has to
Yeah.
do, and then guess what? The rest of the afternoon, it's her oyster.
Right.
But it doesn't have to be the 4 a.m. for those that, it's really the business piece of it that drives the success is the 9 to 11 a.m.
Yep.
Right.
Right?
Agreed.
If you can hit it, if they can hit it hard till noon.
Have a ritual.
Just be on
Have
till
a
noon.
ritual.
Right.
Man, if you don't have a ritual, it's
And
not
beyond
gonna
that,
happen.
Yeah.
they'll be so busy servicing the business they drummed up in the afternoons.
Yeah.
Then it's a win.
It's beautiful.
They can't miss.
And so the other thing there is that a lot of people, and this isn't just for realtors, stop right before the success is about to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah, right.
So keep pushing.
Right.
I mean, I think all three of us at this table are proof that if you keep pushing, it'll happen. I'm not the smartest guy in the room, nor will I ever be. But you know what?
Yeah, for sure.
I try.
And hardworking and focus and be diligent and be surrounded by the right people. I mean,
Yeah.
that's it,
And stay out of negativity.
yes.
Oh my gosh.
Right, you got to have a make it
Absolutely.
happen positive mindset, because when the business gets challenging or you get into environments where there's lots of inspection issues and
Yeah.
things and all the little things that could go wrong in any transaction, you can't dwell in that. And when a deal drops, that's okay.
Right.
Next,
Move
you
on.
just say next.
Right.
Next is the magic word.
That's
I
a
was
beautiful
taught.
thing.
Next, someone hangs up on you. Next, gee,
Not
you're
only
having
the-
a bad day. I'm
My
sorry,
mom taught
sir.
me that at a young age.
Next, next.
It might not be the best four-letter word, but it's damn sure
It's
one of the
perfect.
good ones.
Yeah.
I use another
It's our real
four-letter
estate
word more.
four-letter word.
All right, and then also, you're really, really good at understanding your core competencies. And so for agents out there to understand what their strengths are and what their weaknesses are, you need to be able to pick that out and build a team around you accordingly.
And that'll make a difference what coach you get.
True. And can
That's
I
gonna make
admit
all the
to
difference.
something?
Yeah.
So I'm pushing 60 here shortly. So I've been doing this 23 years now. And my biggest weakness right now is technology. And I do fine. I stumble along. But compared to what I see, Matt's capabilities and so forth, and
Hey, no laughing on that, okay? So
You can laugh at that, everybody.
yes, he's a nerd. Yes, he's a nerd. But he's got some other cool skills too. Not just a nerd. Right? So for me right now, I'm getting out of my box. I'm training. Just got out of the dot loop training for the second time. I'm going into some of the social media training next week. So I'm just trying to keep my foot in the game, and I'm not great at it. It's still intimidating, but that makes me feel old when I
All right.
I'm really falling
So
behind.
what are we going to say here?
Well, I tell you what, there's one common theme with Lorna, and it is getting out of her comfort zone, and she does it
Yep.
in all aspects of her life. There's no way that the first time you got on your bike, you're a professional triathlete. There's no way that you stepped in the CrossFit gym right away and were
That was
successful.
intimidating.
So there's no way, like, as soon as you stepped into real estate, guess what? You struggled and you cried and you had moments but you know what? She pushed through, and outside of that comfort zone is where
Is
success happens.
That's
Yeah.
exactly right.
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly
You can
that-
take that down to the daily prospecting too. So if an agent is getting started and they're going to say, oh, today I'm going to talk to 10 people, or today I'm going to talk to 20 people. It's a numbers game. You just have to know you could have 2 or 3 days in a row and not get one appointment. Sometimes I'll say to Jim, he's like, I've lost my touch, man. And he
Yeah.
laughs. He goes,
Yep.
and he laughs. No, you haven't. Just
Right.
keep calling, honey.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, boom, 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 3
Yep.
in a row.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
So it's like, no, 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 no. There's got to be a yes here coming soon. No, 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 no. Ping. There's
Yeah.
the yes.
So going
Right.
out of her comfort zone, absolutely. But one of the, and I know you've got this written down. I think I can see it upside down over there, right? So
Uh-oh.
if she gets outside of her comfort zone and she's not positive how to deal with something, she gets help.
Yeah.
She goes out and so somebody helps you with some of the social media stuff right now, right? So
Don't be
Yes.
afraid to do it.
Yeah, I hired
Yeah.
somebody.
yeah, yeah. And so that's a big deal. If you're not positive about what to do with that stuff, you're getting help. If the appraisal stuff, it's not that you
It's
couldn't
funny
do
you
it.
said that, because you had mentioned we're doing training of some new agents. Matt's in charge of this and calls it the core group,
Yeah.
right? So the subject matter for the last few weeks is, when I listen to them speak, they'll say, let me ask this question. I went into Berkshire Hathaway cab corner and I couldn't figure this out. And then I couldn't figure that out. And then I had this. And I said, you guys stop. You're accumulating a bunch of balls and chains dragging on
Right.
your leg
That's right.
of things you don't know how to do.
Yeah.
So you have to write them down and you have to solve those problems as you go.
Right.
You
That's that
can't
negativity.
let
Getting rid of that negativity is what you're saying.
you can't let those things accumulate, because it just stops you from focusing on go mode.
Yeah.
You've got to solve them.
Yep.
And you can't do it up to the minute sometimes. You have to sign up for a class or ask,
Right.
but at least make a list.
Yep.
Like, write it down so you
Great
know what's
point.
bothering you.
Great
Otherwise,
point.
you're going to hit it again in a month
Yeah.
and you never solved it last time you hit on it. So
100%.
you just have to keep solving. And that's where I am, like with technology. It's like, whoops, here's another thing. Whoops,
Yeah.
here's another
But
thing.
you figure it out.
Right.
And then I try
And
to
you
go
move
figure
on.
it out.
Or you hire somebody that can figure it
Right.
out for you.
Right. Or you decide you don't want to learn that.
Right.
And you,
That's right.
and
And
you
move
pay.
on. That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
Exactly.
Well, we appreciate having you. Any closing thoughts? Anything that comes to
Yeah.
mind?
My biggest closing thought is this business is amazing. It's an amazing business
Agreed.
for somebody who
Agreed.
wants to have a fabulous life. I look back, this was not Jim Short and Lorna Short's intention to be realtors. We thought we were corporate people. Life changes. You make the adjustment, and we're blessed. We look back now and thank the heavens for
Yeah.
taking us down this road, because it gave us more time with our children. It gave us
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
and-
extremely grateful that you came down this road too. I can't tell you how much stuff she does for us with the
I know.
agents and the training, and how much you do in the offices and sharing. Just sitting down with us this morning, this has been fantastic. I know this is going to help a bunch of people.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
good
thank
stuff.
you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thanks. Good luck to everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Rock on, peeps.
All right.
Love you.